Welcome back. Today, we are walking into the lion's den. We are talking about the Saturday morning ritual that strikes fear into the hearts of first-home buyers and seasoned investors alike, the auction. If you have been looking at real estate listings lately, particularly in major Australian cities, you have probably noticed a pattern. It feels like you can't just buy a house anymore. You have to fight for it. In fact, in the current market, you might notice that out of every 10 houses for sale, 9 of them are listed for auction. It feels inescapable. Now, the standard advice you get from agents is just get your finances ready and show up. But if you're a buyer, you should probably be wary of them. Today, we're going to break down exactly why you should think twice before raising that paddle. We're going to look at the game theory of auctions, the psychological traps set for you, and the hidden financial landmines that most people don't see until the gavel falls. So, sit back and let's decode the theater of the auction. Part 1. The auction is not what you think it is. In the Australian context, an auction isn't a sign of a desperate seller. It is a calculated market behavior. It is a strategic choice. It is a marketing tool designed for one specific outcome: to sell a property cleanly, quickly, and at the highest possible price. When we say cleanly, we aren't talking about hygiene. We are talking about the contract. From a seller's perspective, an auction is the holy grail of sales because it shifts almost all the risk onto you, the buyer. Think about it. In a private treaty sale, also known as a normal sale, you have a cooling off period. You can change your mind. In an auction, there is zero cooling off period. None. The moment that hammer falls and the auctioneer points at you, you're legally bound. You must sign the contract. You must buy that house. This creates a terrifying dynamic for the buyer. Because the sale is unconditional, you lose the safety net of due diligence that usually happens after a price is agreed upon. In a normal scenario, you agree on a price, and then you check the building structure. Then you check for termites. But in an auction model, you have to do all of that before you even know if you can afford the house. This leads us to the first major trap, the inspection gamble. Most buyers, quite logically, hesitate to spend $500 or $800 on a building and pest inspection for a house they might not win. Who wants to burn money? So what happens? They skip it. They walk into an auction blind. They don't know if there is structural subsidence. They don't know if termites have eaten the framing behind the drywall. The seller loves this. Once the hammer falls, those termites are your termites. The structural cracks are your cracks. The seller walks away with a check, and you walk away with a liability. Part 2. The financing tightrope. But let's say the house is structurally sound. You're lucky. The next trap is even more dangerous because it involves the banks. In a standard purchase, you would almost always include a clause called subject to finance. This means if the bank decides not to lend you the money, or if the interest rates spike overnight and your borrowing capacity drops, you can back out of the deal safely. Auctions do not allow subject to finance clauses. If you win an auction, you're telling the world, I have the cash, or I'm 100% certain the bank will give it to me. But here is the kicker. You cannot be 100% certain. I can hear some of you shouting, I have a pre-approval. I'm safe. Are you? Let's play out a scenario. You have a pre-approval for $2 million. You go to the auction. The market is hot. The crowd is frenzied, and you win the bid at $2 million. You celebrate. Champagne pops. Then, the bank sends their valuer to the property a few days later. The bank valuer looks at the property, looks at the comparable sales, and says, actually, in our conservative opinion, this house is only worth $1.5 million. Now do the math. The bank will usually lend you 80% of the value, not the purchase price. So, they will lend you 80% of $1.5 million. That leaves a massive gap. You don't just need the 20% deposit anymore. You now need to cover that entire $500,000 shortfall in cash. If you don't have that $500,000 sitting in a sock under your bed, you are in breach of contract. You lose your deposit, which is usually 10%. That's $200,000 gone, and you can be sued for further damages. This valuation gap is a real killer in hot markets. When emotions drive prices above logic, bank valuations often don't keep up. And in an auction, that gap is entirely your problem. Part 3. psychology, and the winner's curse. This brings us to the human element. Why do we pay $2 million for a $1.5 million house? It's because auctions are not designed for rational economic exchange. They are designed to exploit human weakness. There is a concept in economics called the winner's curse, and auctioneers are masters of weaponizing it. An auction is an anti-human mechanism. It targets your ego, your competitiveness, and your fear of missing out. I've seen it 100 times. You have successful people, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, people who are used to winning in life. They are successful because they are competitive. They don't like to lose. When they step into that auction crowd, it stops being about the brick and mortar. It becomes a gladiator arena. The auctioneer points at you. The guy in the expensive suit next to you raises his hand. Your heart rate spikes. You aren't thinking about the mortgage repayment anymore. You're thinking, I am not going to let him beat me. You get auction fever. You get hot-headed. You end up paying a premium not for the house, but for the victory. And the agents know how to lock you into this mindset before the auction even starts. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Remember those inspections we talked about earlier? Let's say you did do the right thing. You paid a lawyer to review the contract. You paid a builder to inspect the structure. You paid a pest control expert to check for bugs. Maybe you even paid an architect to sketch up some renovation plans or check if you can build a townhouse in the back. You have spent time, energy, and thousands of dollars before you even own the place. On auction day, your brain tells you, I have invested too much to walk away now. I have to buy this. That desperation is exactly what the seller wants. It forces you to bid beyond your limit because the pain of walking away empty-handed feels worse than the pain of overpaying. Part 4. The Agent's Secret Game. Expectation Management. Now, let's flip the script and look at the person running the show, the real estate agent. If you understand the agent's motivation, you understand the game. For an agent, an auction is primarily an exercise in expectation management, and they are managing two people, you, the buyer, and the seller. Here is a dirty little secret. The guide price or statement of information you see online, it is often meaningless. Agents play a very delicate game. They need the price to look low enough to attract a huge crowd. They want you to feel that hope. They want you to think, wow, I can actually afford this. They will be incredibly nice to you. They will tell you the owner is reasonable. They will whisper that the price expectation is within your budget. Why? Because they need you to fall in love. They need you to mentally move your furniture in. They need you to go home, secure your loan, check the contract, get emotionally attached. The more people they can trap in this hope phase, the more registered bidders show up on Saturday. And social proof is powerful. If you see 50 people on the front lawn, you assume the house is worth more. But here is the other side of the coin, the seller. You might think the agent and the seller are best friends, plotting against you. Not necessarily. The agent wants a sale. A sale at any price is better than no sale. So, while the agent is pumping you up, they are often trying to keep the seller down, at least until the last minute. Agents typically won't let a buyer make a pre-auction offer or discuss price in detail too early. Why? Because if a buyer offers a high price 2 weeks early, the seller's ego inflates. The seller starts thinking, oh, my house is a gold mine. An inflated seller is an agent's nightmare because they become stubborn. They might refuse to sell on the day if the price isn't astronomical. So, the agent keeps everyone in the dark. The reserve price, the minimum price the seller will accept, is often not even signed until the morning of the auction. The agent wants to keep the seller nervous and the buyers eager until the very last second. It's a masterclass in psychological manipulation. They inflate your expectations while suppressing the sellers, hoping that on auction day, the two will meet in the middle, usually at a price higher than you wanted to pay. Part 5. How to survive. So, knowing all of this, knowing the financial risks, the lack of inspections, the psychological traps, why do people still do it? Well, as we said at the start, sometimes you have no choice. If 90% of the market is auction-based, you have to play the game. But you don't have to play it blindly. Here is how you protect yourself, based on the insights we've discussed. Detach your ego. You are buying a pile of bricks, not a trophy. If the bidding goes past your calculated limit, Stop. Let someone else win the curse. The cash buffer. If you are bidding, understand that the bank valuation might come in low. Do not bid up to your absolute maximum borrowing capacity. Leave a buffer. If you are approved for $1 million, maybe stop at $900,000 to account for a valuation shortfall. Know the agent's tactic. When the agent calls you midweek and says, "Oh, the interest is looking really strong, but the owner is realistic," recognize this for what it is. Expectation management. They're trying to ensure you show up. Observe the crowd. Don't just watch the auctioneer. Watch the other buyers. Are they emotional? Are they aggressive? Sometimes, the smartest move is to let the property pass in, fail to sell, and then negotiate privately afterwards, where the cooling off rules might re-enter the conversation depending on your state's laws. Conclusion. Sun Tzu in the suburbs. There's an old saying from the art of war. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. In the world of real estate, the enemy isn't the agent or the seller. It's the system of the auction itself. It's a system designed to strip you of your safeguards, cloud your judgment with emotion, and force you to pay a premium for certainty. The agent knows exactly what they are doing. The auctioneer knows exactly what they are doing. The seller is just hoping for a payday. You need to be the one person in the crowd who sees the matrix code. You need to understand that the clean, fast sale benefits everyone except you. So, the next time you see a for auction sign, don't just see a potential home. See a battlefield. Do your due diligence. Check your financing twice and leave your ego at the door. Or if you can, find that 1 out of 10 houses that is selling by private treaty. It might just save you a fortune and a heart attack. If you found this deep dive helpful, make sure to subscribe. We'll see you next time.